Welcome to FitFarm, a show dedicated to creating a better life through fitness and the grappling arts. I'm Joseph Aronson.
I'm Jackie Baker. It's time to get jacked.
What's up, everybody? I am here with ex-professional fighter and kickboxer Bryce Franck. How you doing, Bryce?
Doing great, Joey. How are you?
Good. Thanks for coming out, dude.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. If we could we just give everybody listening a quick background about yourself? I mean, a lot of people listening, I'm sure, are very familiar with your story, but maybe for the people that aren't familiar.
Sure, yeah. Well, I've been a lifelong martial artist. I started martial arts when I was very young. I was probably about 7 or 8 years old when I started training in judo. At that point in time, I really wanted to do karate.
It was hot back
punch
then.
And kick people, right? I got interested. I begged to do martial arts, and found judo at the YMCA. Put me into that. Initially, wasn't too much into that. I was grappling. I wanted to punch and kick. Kind of stuck. Dad said, "Hey, stick with this for a little while, and we'll see." So I did, and then ended up into Taekwondo, and followed martial arts pretty much my whole life. Had a little bit of a break there, in high school and stuff when I was doing football and wrestling and whatnot.
Yeah,
but then,
standard sports.
Yeah. And then, after high school, I ended up down in the Quad Cities, and I was going to school, and ended up training with Pat Militech.
Nice, yeah.
Didn't spend much time with him, but just enough time to kind of, hey, there's, this is really
get that
cool.
bug, right?
Yeah. I got to look into this, this competitive thing and this, full contact thing. And then moved back to, the Rockford area. And there wasn't much around back then, so I'm kind of looking for.
You talking like 90s or?
Yeah, we're talking about 96.
Yeah, mid-90s.
So I'm kind of, looking around, trying to find something. Ended up finding a guy up in Milwaukee that taught Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu out of Duke's gym. He was renting space in Rufus's kickboxing gym.
Oh, nice.
And so I was traveling up there for a little bit, and they were doing all the gi and all that kind of stuff. And at that point in time, I really hadn't messed with that much.
No interest, right?
Yeah,
at the time?
It was completely foreign to me. And guys wrapping my collar around me and choking me out. And
so frustrating.
Garbage, yeah.
This isn't real life.
This is stupid, And then, started meeting some Duke and some of the kickboxers and stuff that he had. And he had some champions from Thailand there at the time. I'm like, man, these guys are really cool. They're really laid back. I really like what they're doing. And then, went headlong into kickboxing and eventually circled back around into MMA when I kind of became the striking coach to a lot of people. So.
Nice, dude. So what is it that made you first get into the martial arts? Was there like a moment or a show or?
It was the Octagon with Chuck Norris.
That was it, that movie?
Yeah, that was it with my dad. I just remember watching, all the old, you watch them now, they're so horrible. But, the Octagon and Invasion USA and Missing in Action and all these old, the old canon martial arts films, that were so popular in that era.
Yeah, and I think people joke around about Chuck Norris, but that guy's the real deal, man. He's legit too.
Oh yeah, I mean, he did it for real,
Yeah.
And he's a purple belt, I think, under the Machado brothers. So he's done legit stuff. He's not not
just an actor, right?
Yeah, not just an actor. Yeah, well, thank God he's not just an actor.
Right. So what is it that made you just want to do striking only? Just was it the feel of just people on top of you in judo, or was it just the movies?
The initial interest was the movies.
Yeah.
Ninjas don't roll around with people on the ground.
Yeah, it's not real.
I mean, So originally it was that when I was younger, and and it just, I had spent a lot of time in it. And it kind of got good at it. Over years, I flirted multiple times with like, hey, do I want to get into the MMA scene? Because we were talking earlier off air. I'm just a little too old to have to hit the MMA scene in America, and I was just a little too young where I kind of missed the boom in the kickboxing scene too. So I'm kind of right between. But yeah, I thought about the whole MMA thing numerous times, and it was like, God, I feel like I've got so much. I still feel like I have so much to learn in striking. Like I'm getting better, like on a daily and weekly basis. I couldn't imagine adding all that other stuff into my training schedule because we didn't make enough money then to like not work. And
sure, yeah. You're working full time, training too. I mean,
yeah, I'm working
right?
full time. I was a large portion of my fighting career. I was a single dad.
Wow. Yeah.
So yeah, it was. There's a lot going on. In fact, I look back at those days now and I think, how did I do that? Because I would go from work to the gym to to train other people, then train myself. And
you bring her probably with you to the gym, right?
You probably remember tagging along with me at the gym back in the day.
They grow up. That's cool when they grow up around the gym, though. They're growing up around that lifestyle is kind of neat because even if they don't pick up the interest in it, you hope they pick up at least some of the technique just from seeing it all day, every day, right?
Right, absolutely. Yeah.
But I mean, ideally, it'd be nice. Is she into it too a little bit?
She never really did have much interest in it. She's an athlete. She is an athlete. But she more recently, actually within the last few weeks, has really started bugging me about wanting to get into boxing. Her and a friend wanting to get into boxing. So I said, great.
Yes, let's do it.
The thing for me is, I always wanted it for her, but I never pushed it on her either.
No, because that's when they're going to push back.
Yeah.
And, nope.
We work on her and I work on some self-defense related stuff, but in terms of actually going to a gym, she's never really shown that interest, but now she's starting to. So we'll see where that goes.
Dude, that's awesome. So as far as your competitive part, did you actually compete at all in like either point fighting, karate, or taekwondo when you were younger, or?
A little bit,
okay.
Yeah, a little bit of point fighting, and I even when I was young, I thought the forms and all that stuff, the katas were dumb, I always tried to avoid that stuff. But I did a little bit of that stuff. They were nothing. I wasn't on a national scene for that at all.
Sure,
going to like high school gyms and doing tournaments
right.
and stuff like that. But I think I didn't take any real interest in competing until the mid '90s when I met Pat Militech.
Yeah, and that's when the bug bit you, the competition bug.
Yeah.
So then you trained with? Did you train with Militech for a little while, or how long?
Yeah, it was probably about. It was shy of a year. It was probably about 8 months or so, 6-8 months.
Okay,
yeah.
So you didn't compete under him at all?
No,
did you? It was just training?
Yeah.
So then you came back to the area here and found Duke Rufus?
Yeah.
Did he get you lined up with some competing then?
Yeah, I had actually started competing before I was working with Duke. I just kind of started jumping in these kickboxing fights. I had no guidance, no training. I was just kind of. I say I had no training. I mean, I had no formal training. I had no trainer. I had a background in taekwondo and stuff, but I was just kind of trying to figure it out by myself. And I think my first 4 amateur fights I lost. So I was like 0-4, and I figured, I'm like, there's an art to this. I've just got to figure it out. And fortunately I was either stubborn enough or dumb enough to keep going out there after losing. And eventually it just kind of started clicking, and the next thing you know, I'm fighting world-class guys.
Yeah. I mean, that says something about your character or mental toughness to keep going back after getting your butt whipped 4 times. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's something there that I think some people miss out on, and that's one thing about probably martial arts that teach you, discipline and keep showing up, and good things are going to happen, because after those 4 losses, you went and got formal training, and fast forward to now, I mean, you've had professional fights, you've fought with champion. I mean, you've been a champion, you've done it all, when it comes to, for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a decent run.
Yeah.
I had a decent run. I mean, for somebody that was never able to fully dedicate my life to it, I think I had a decent run.
Yeah, because I mean, you worked through it all pretty much, didn't you? You had a job.
Yeah, I had a full-time career the entire time. Yeah, and like I said, trying to raise a daughter, and I never wanted to make that secondary. So
yeah, dad first, right?
Yeah.
When did you catch your pro debut? Like, do you remember your first pro fight?
I do. It was 1 week after 9/11.
Oh, yeah, that's an easy date to remember, sure.
Not exactly 1 week, but 9/11 I think was on a Tuesday, and so it was a week and a half after. Yeah.
Wow. How'd that go?
It was good. I won a decision. Yeah.
So when they bring you up to the pro level, how does that work? Do they just reach up to you and say, "Hey, we're ready to we think you're good enough to be a pro," or your manager takes care of all that, or how does that?
Well, I had a manager, and I think we kind of referenced this. Duke Rufus was my manager and my trainer. I had a boxing trainer, but I traveled up to Milwaukee to train with Duke also, and so I had a really good manager, Duke, and I still have a great relationship. We're still very good friends. So he always had my best interest at heart. But there's, as far as turning pro, basically what happens is there's no like certain amount of fights or time that you have to spend in the amateurs. Basically what happens is, once a promoter is willing to pay you to fight, you become a pro. It's kind of how it works. And honestly, it has as much to do with drawing power as it does talent sometimes.
Okay. So if you're an exciting fighter, it's still to this day, even that's how MMA works. That's how those guys, half of them get paid is. Yeah.
You got to sell yourself. If you look at it, you're basically a business unto yourself. You're a sole proprietorship, and you have to get out there and sell yourself. And there's a lot of great fighters out there, but if they can't put butts in seats, they're never going to do that well.
Yeah, that's crazy. So I think I remember seeing you actually. Did you fight at King of the Cage in Rockford? Or no?
I did fight. That was actually I did. So I don't know if we talked about this at the end of my active career. Okay. I did transition into MMA. And I did 3 MMA fights. I was already in my mid-30s at that point in my life, and I'm kind of like, I just feel like I'm a little old to learn a whole new sport.
Sure, because you're going to have to learn the grappling side now and the takedowns.
Right. Yeah. And don't forget that, you can know grappling and know striking and still not know MMA. That is a very different thing. This transitional spaces in MMA are huge.
Yeah, that part where you're going to get punched going for that takedown.
Exactly, and transitioning, passing a guard in jiu-jitsu is one thing, and it's a skill, and it's definitely very skill based. But passing a guard when there's striking involved is a different skill set. It is related to what you will learn in jiu-jitsu, but it is not.
There's some different timing too, right? I imagine.
Absolutely, yes. Your distancing, your timing, it's a lot of the things that maybe a jiu-jitsu player may not have to worry about as much, like controlling the adversary, his opponent's hands. Mm-hmm. You kind of have to do when the guy's swinging at you.
Yeah, you don't want to catch an elbow or a fist and passing their guard.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So, do you have any stories about your training in kickboxing or places it's taking you, or as far as fighting or training?
Yeah. Well, yeah. A little bit. I trained in Holland. Which is really cool. Never got the chance to train in Thailand. I would have liked to have, but realistically, I think not necessarily the style, but the way that they train in Holland is probably more appropriate for American athletes.
Yeah. Is it a different style too, though, like a Dutch or something?
Yeah, the Dutch style is different. Yeah, it's probably more. It's not probably. It is more boxing heavy.
Okay.
There's more emphasis on boxing. Its roots are as much in Kyokushin karate as they are in Muay Thai. So it's kind of a blend of Muay Thai, Kyokushin karate, and Western boxing. They fight moving forward a lot more. They put a lot more emphasis on the punching. Real heavy low kick emphasis. Where in Thailand, the punching is scored very low. In true Thai boxing.
Oh, so like in a bout?
Yeah. So that's not to say that there are Thais that are fantastic boxers, but some of them have even become boxing champions, professional boxing champions. But the way Thai boxing is scored, your knees, elbows, kicks, and even clinch controls will score higher than your punches will. Really?
Now, is Dutch or Thai? Which one's more clinch heavy?
Thai.
By far. Okay.
Yeah. The Dutch style is not real clinch heavy at all.
Okay.
in the earlier days of the K1, you'd see a lot more clinching now. But if you watch like Glory now, which is heavily rooted in the Dutch style, if you watch like Glory kickboxing now, you see very little clinching.
Yeah, I think they almost have rules against that, right? Of how long you can clinch.
They do, and I mean, honestly, I don't know how clearly defined those rules are.
Yeah, I think they're
kind of seem to change show to show.
Whatever the ref feels like at the time, right? Or
I don't know. I did do one. I did do one fight. It was the last fight I ever had. It was in 2013. It was on the Road to Glory, one of those Road to Glory cards when they were trying to get Glory built up here in the United States. And I fought a single bout between the rounds of between the tournament rounds.
Because nice.
After each round of the tournament, they'll put a single bout or two on to give the tournament fighters a break before they have to fight again.
A little rest.
So they call them super fights, but I did a super fight on the Road to Glory card in Milwaukee in 2013.
Wow, that's cool. Is it Thai where it's more like there's a set rhythm too that they're that
they're
punching?
They'll definitely fight to more of a rhythm. It's almost ceremonial in the way they fight.
When you're watching, it's very easy to anticipate when it's coming.
Well, I wouldn't say that it's easy to anticipate, but
as a spectator, I feel like
there's a rhythm to it.
There's
certainly a rhythm to it. Yeah. And the other things you got to realize too is the Thais fight all the time.
Sure. They all have hundreds of fights.
Yeah,
right?
they will. They'll have hundreds of fights. They'll start very, very young. That's another reason I don't think that the Thai style of training is necessarily appropriate to a lot of Westerners, because these guys start training and fighting when they're, in their 10, 11, 12 years old, and they finish relatively early too. Most of them are done in their mid-20s. A lot of us aren't getting started till then because we're not coming out of football and wrestling and baseball and whatever other sports we did until that period of time. So with the volume that they train with in Thailand is insane, and the frequency that they fight with also.
They generally have a shorter shelf life. I mean, at the end of the day, I guess the window is probably the same, but their career ends a lot sooner than.
Probably
generally.
so. Probably so.
Because you went till almost late 30s, right? Your last fight
mid 30s. Yeah. I guess technically my last fight was in my late 30s, but the end of my active career was in my mid 30s.
Yeah. So now, what was there a reason you switched to the MMA or took an MMA fight, or was it just there and the offer was there? Or?
Well, sure. We when I was still actively campaigning in kickboxing, we were I was at the point where we couldn't get much of anything local anymore because I was having to I was either having to travel very far for fights or having to bring opponents in from very far away.
Yeah.
So it started getting a little more challenging getting fights. The K1, which was a big kickboxing league, had dried up here in the United States. It went out of business. So the K1, they used to have a USA tournament every couple times a year in Vegas, and that dried up. So the opportunities were getting less and less. And then what ended up happening was we had we kept getting these offers for MMA. Like, hey, you want to do an MMA fight? And I remember Duke and I, my manager, we were kind of talking like, gosh, we keep getting these MMA offers. It's getting harder and harder to get kickboxing fights. What do we want to do with this? And, and I clearly remember the conversation with him thinking, God, there's just, these MMA fights at the time were paying hundreds when we were making thousands for a fight.
So you're taking a big pay cut.
Yeah, and kind of like, gosh, I just don't see it having a future.
Yeah.
Go figure. But then, I think probably 6 months later, Stephan Bonner and Forrest Griffin blow it up on the Ultimate Fighter finale.
Yeah.
And MMA just
they put
takes
MMA
off like
on
a
the
rocket.
map.
I trained with Stephan a little bit.
Really?
He's still in the Midwest here. Yeah.
Wow. Just kickboxing wise, or was that full MMA?
Yeah, I did. He was working with Duke on striking, so I would work with him there a little bit. And then when I decided that I was going to take my first MMA fight, I started driving out to Chicago and grappling with him.
What was that like?
That was good. I mean, he gave me a lot of good pointers on, trying to get me good at grappling quick for MMA, no fluff, not to imply that jiu-jitsu is fluff, but
sure.
I had a specific objective in mind, and that's what he worked with me on.
Yeah.
And we didn't work together a ton, but
sure.
handful of times.
How was it like sparring with him? Was he an animal, or
where?
Up at Duke's when you?
No, I mean sparring on the feet or on the ground.
Oh, on the feet. Were you pretty well matched there? Or?
No,
okay.
We weren't pretty well matched there.
Okay.
But on the ground, he was far ahead of me. Yeah.
Yeah. So he helped you kind of try to get that up to speed as much as he could, right?
Right. Yeah.
Well, like you said,
and that was the arrangement I had with a lot of these guys in MMAs in the early days. Was like, yeah, I can get you up to speed on your striking. Try to help get me up to speed on my grappling.
Let's work with each other here a little, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
which is how a lot of the early MMA gyms were formed and stuff, right?
You had a guy
MMA partnerships. Yeah, hey, we got a boxing guy, we got a wrestling guy, we got a jiu-jitsu guy.
I remember when Tommy had that going on. He had was it Sockwell doing just the boxing for a while, right?
I actually brought William in. So Coach Sockwell, William Sockwell, was my boxing coach.
Yeah, okay. See?
And I worked with several boxing coaches over the years, and I shouldn't say over the years, but I tried several boxing coaches, and finally ended up settling on William. The reason I settled on William was, number one, we just got along real well, and you had that good rapport, which helps. But, the other thing with William was when we started working together, I gave him, 10 or 15 old VHS tapes of Thai boxing, because he didn't really know that much about Thai boxing.
Yeah.
Or kickboxing, and so I gave him like some old VHS tapes, and he studied those things. And even though he's never fought a Thai boxing match, he's become pretty adept in it from all the years we worked together. And he did his homework. He understood. He never tried to say, "I'm going to turn you into a boxer."
Right.
A lot of boxing trainers tried to turn you into a boxer.
Sure.
He understood that that was what I did was a little different. And so that worked out great.
Dude, that's awesome. You could find someone that dedicated to take the time to watch all those videos and actually tweak your game to where your boxing will help your kickboxing.
Yeah, he was a fantastic coach, and for my last fight, he wasn't around a lot. He still came up and worked in my corner, but he wasn't around a lot because his son had some health problems at the time, but. Then Jimmy Goodman from the Patriots Gateway, who I had done a little bit of work with in the past, kind of took over my boxing for that last fight. And William and Jimmy coached together a lot, so having Jimmy coach me and then William in the corner was still like they were speaking the same language. And, so shout out to Jimmy too, because he helped me out a lot, and he's got a young boxer doing fantastic right now. He's got a shot at the Olympics.
Really?
Angel Martinez. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of Jimmy Goodman. He's local, right?
Yeah, his gym's on. It's at a 200 block of 7th Street.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Close-ish to downtown area.
Yeah,
right?
the midtown area there.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. No, that's cool, dude. Yeah, I remember Sockwell. He was a great coach. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you said, he will adapt your game to. That's the thing, like a lot of people will have a boxing coach only, and then you have your jiu-jitsu coach only, and then you have your wrestling coach only, and then they'll say, you figure out how to tie this all together, and that's where you got a pretty good group of guys that actually helped you tie it all together.
I don't remember who said this, but there's a famous quote in music that music is the space between the notes.
Mm-hmm.
I think MMA is a space between the disciplines.
Yes.
Yes. It's not about necessarily how good you are in each component discipline. That matters, but it's how well you can tie those together is what's really important.
Oh,
and how
sure.
well you can fight in those transitional spaces.
Yeah, because you got a guy like Damian Maia, amazing jiu-jitsu, probably one of the best in the in the world, maybe even. And if you got a guy like Tyron that won't let you take you down, there you go. So you got to be able to tie it all together.
Yeah, and when you look at talk about specialists, go back a few years, but most MMA fans know Mirko Cro Cop.
Mm-hmm.
And Mirko Cro Cop was a fantastic kickboxer.
Oh yeah.
But he never really did win a title in kickboxing. He was never really, like, he was always upper echelon, but he was never on top, you know. And then you take a guy like Stefan Lecko, who was probably a better kickboxer than Mirko Krokop was, but came into MMA, and I think he went like 0-3 or something and left and went back to kickboxing, you know. So just because you're good at something doesn't necessarily mean that it translates into, you know, good at one discipline doesn't mean it's going to translate into, you know, a mixed discipline.
Yeah, that Mirko, whew, man, he's an animal. That dude's that's a big boy.
Yeah, I was just actually watching, I think it was on, I don't know, was it Fox Sports or wherever they show UFC replays now. It was his second fight with Gonzaga.
Oh, yeah, Gabriel Gonzaga, yeah.
So, you know, he got famously knocked out in that first Gonzaga fight, and I was watching his second fight with Gonzaga, and he won that. He managed to win that one, but, you know, you see the Mirko over the years, and he just, that, you know, in his early Pride fights and stuff, he was, and the competition wasn't as good then either, you know, but in his early Pride fights, he was just, you know, he was an animal. He was stringing his strikes together, and he was just on top of people. And then, you know, you watch some of his later fights, and it seems to me like he kind of started swinging for the fences on every shot. And,
yeah.
You know, he wasn't fluid like he used to be. You
Yep.
know?
And you wonder if that's just age playing a role, or if it's the way.
Could be age, could be coaching, you know.
Loss of interest, you know. You've done it so long, you're kind of bored.
Who knows? I don't know him personally, you know, so I don't know. But, you know, I think the other thing, too, is, you know, in any sport, when people reach a certain level, they kind of become a little bit uncoachable.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
They know it all.
Yeah, and they just, well, this is what's worked for me for so long. Why would I change it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know if that's what happened with him or not.
Yeah.
But
But I mean, it's very possible. And like you said, it happens a lot.
Yeah.
Who do you think kicks the hardest out of all the everyone in MMA right now? If you had to guess.
Right now?
Yeah. Or maybe all time, but that'd probably be Pedro Hizo, right? From what I hear.
I think Mirko would have to be up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pedro Hizo kicked pretty hard too. I think, I would say Mirko. I mean, all time. I just, you know, and you understand power is dependent on a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not just actually how hard you hit, but your timing and you know, all that sort of stuff. You know, what the best strikers can do is create a collision.
Oh yeah.
They can move you into the strike, you know.
They can catch you coming.
Yeah.
You know, time it just right.
It's a timing thing, and you know, and just like a great wrestler, you know, they when you see a great wrestler take somebody down, it looks so effortless, you know, because they literally know exactly how your weight's distributed at all times, and they know exactly when to attack. And it's the same thing with a great striker, you know, they know exactly how to get you to move a certain way and what to do when they get you moving that way.
Yes, you know? Exactly. You know exactly where your body's going to be at this exact second, where they know where that kick's going to land, like 90% of the time, you know, especially guys at that level that have done that same kick, you know, millions of times probably.
Yeah. For sure.
So we can switch it up a little bit here. Now that we've kind of delved into your kickboxing career, you took some time, obviously you took time off and you've been helping people, you know, with their game. What's that like, coaching people as opposed to being the athlete?
You know, initially I kind of coached because I needed to.
Yeah, just for the trade-off or whatever.
For the trade-off, and to build training partners too.
Yeah.
You know, you got to remember when I was really doing a lot of my active fighting.
There weren't a lot of guys.
There wasn't a lot around here, you know. So I was training up at Duke's. When I didn't have a fight coming up, I'd train up there usually like one time a week. When I had a fight, I'd go up there like 3 times a week. But that's, you know, it's an hour and 45-minute drive for me every time I went up there, you know, one way. And so that got exhausting.
Sure, that's 5.5 hours right there. It's 3.5 driving and probably a couple training, right?
Yeah. And then, you know, you stop and eat usually and all that stuff too. So it turns into a full day thing, you know. But so, you know, that was part of the coaching thing too, was building training partners for myself. It was initially a selfish venture for me to get into coaching, you know.
Yep.
And then when we got when a lot of the wrestlers started coming to me, I started figuring out that I kind of had a little bit of a talent for getting people competent rather quickly. And I was able to do that because I didn't try to turn them into strikers. I used the striking to fill the holes in their game, and so then that kind of transitioned more into coaching, and obviously, the older you get, the less you fight, and and before you knew it, I was doing more coaching than fighting. Then I kind of stepped away altogether for a little while. I would still train a little bit, but I was no longer involved as an active coach in the gym.
Sure.
These days, I do one-on-one lessons and and some seminar stuff, especially related to self-defense. So
yeah.
I'm not real active in the coaching of fighters anymore.
Okay. How was that when you were active in it? Was it stressful at times dealing with?
Oh, it was more stressful than fighting. It was more stressful than fighting. I mean, I would get more nervous, and a lot of the guys I coached, but I would get more nervous when those guys fought
than when you fought, right?
Than when I fought, and I would get, I'd get so anxious. I couldn't sleep the night before. I'd lose my voice screaming. And you know this as a pretty intense coach. I always said that I was never the right coach for the person that just wanted to lose 5 pounds. There's nothing wrong with somebody that just wants to lose 5 pounds, but I'm probably not your guy.
Yeah, you're gonna have to reach out to someone else.
Yeah, and
I mean that's how you got a very competitive nature.
Yeah.
So you're gonna pass that along to people you're training too. You're going to push them, right?
Right. And I'm kind of a stickler on technique,
details, big time,
big time detail orientated coach. And to me, the guys that I know that I can make good are the ones that will spend, inordinate amounts of time working on very simple things.
Just footwork without right?
Yeah. In fact, I had a guy do a private lesson with me about a year or so ago, and he liked the lesson, but he told me afterwards, he said, I don't know if I can, I don't know if the way you coach is for me, because we spent close to 2 hours working on the jab, and
right.
He didn't throw another punch or a kick or a knee or an elbow for 2 hours.
But let's get that down, right? I mean,
yeah.
At least you have something that you're efficient at, right? Instead of you just know a bunch of stuff that you're not good at, right?
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, that is the way to do it, especially if it's someone that wants to fight.
And again, this was somebody that wants to fight. So,
if it was cardio kickboxing, I mean, whatever, just throw whatever. I don't care if you're guarding your face. We're just sweating. But if it's someone that wants to fight, exactly, dude. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Well, the best people are the masters of the basics.
Mm-hmm.
They have a deeper level of understanding. They don't necessarily know more techniques, but they know more about the techniques that they use.
That's why Tommy's so good with jiu-jitsu. I mean, that right there, dude. His and I've trained a bunch of different places, and I've even gone on vacations and trained at other gyms out of the state and everything. And just going back, it's like, this dude has his fundamentals down, you know, and that's same with you and your kickboxing coaching,
Thank you.
I think that's why you guys work together so well. I mean, or butt heads sometimes. Either way.
Well, Tommy and I have known each other for a long time. I think over 20 years.
Yeah.
And I think you've had him on before, I believe.
Yep.
But for those people that don't maybe know, it's Tommy Woodruff, who owns Core Combat Sports, and he's my current jiu-jitsu coach as well. So but his phenomenal technical instruction.
He will take the most basic pass you can think of, and he will make it impossible for you to stop it. Right? He can tell you, I'm going to pass you doing this, and there's nothing you can do because his game is so tight. You know?
Yeah, it's very, very technical, very good.
Mm-hmm. And he will drill. I like that. Yeah, back when I first started, I didn't appreciate it as much either. But now I'm like, dude, we'll drill the same boring move for 15 minutes, but it's not boring because if you're actually paying attention when you're doing it,
you're uncovering more layers.
Yes, it keeps getting deeper and deeper. It's like, oh wow, my knee was actually blocking this here when I was passing, or you're like, I didn't think of that the first time, and then after 50 reps, you know how to do it against full resistance,
Right. Yeah.
as opposed to just a partner that lays there. Well, of course you can pass that. You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's huge. And I'd always wondered about, what your nerves were like when you were coaching too. So
yeah, I got more nervous and I got frustrated, I didn't get frustrated at the athlete per se.
Yeah.
I more got frustrated for them, when guys weren't making connections that I felt they should be making, I get frustrated and I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Why are you not making this connection?
You're beating yourself up over it.
Yeah. And one of the guys that I trained, I remember he was a real talented guy and he was fighting one of the guys that was, I think, on the WEC roster.
Yeah.
And he was doing real well. He was winning the first round, but he got caught partway through the first round in a heel hook. It was one of those like, is this guy going to get out of this?
Oh man!
And he managed to escape it and was clearly winning the first round. And he hits the guy and he drops him, but the 10-second warning had already gone off. And so he hits the guy and he drops him and he goes running in to try to finish him. And the guy grabs a heel hook again.
Oh,
and
yeah,
just tears his ankle and his knee apart. Finishes the fight. And those are the types of things that I got so frustrated with because I'm like, what was my coaching failure that this kid didn't understand tactically?
And patience.
That was a bad move. Like you've already won the round and you're not likely to finish it in that period of time. Yeah. You stepped right into a trap. And
that was a pro level fight.
It was a pro fight, yeah. And I look and I'm, what failure did I make that you're not making that connection? Because I'm thinking you should be making that connection with your level of experience.
Yeah, And then the fighter takes it as you're yelling at him, but deep down you're actually frustrated with yourself.
No, I think he understood. Yeah. I think he understood. We work together a lot, and we're still close. I do think he understood. That I was angry at myself more than I was angry at him, and but yeah, those are just the frustrating things. You can't.
You're not
in control. Be in there and do it for him.
You almost want him to be like your puppet, right?
Yeah, you could play it like a video game or something. Yeah,
Yeah, you get the controller out. I got you, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, it's frustrating, and you're personally invested in it. It's not like
you got tons of time invested in this guy, and your name attached to it too.
Yeah, because the name never bothered me that much. Having the name attached, and I think part of the reason the name never bothered me that much. Look, I've gone out and lost fights. Okay, my name's definitely attached to that, but I just kind of felt like, look, that when in fighting, there's always a winner and a loser. Somebody's going to lose, So the name, having my name attached, that never personally bothered me, but just the frustration is sometimes feeling like I let them down.
Yeah, that's huge. Did you ever coach kids too, or was it just adults for the? Okay,
just adults. Yeah.
Okay, because that's a whole nother ball game too. Yeah. You get into that.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't have the patience for that.
You know what? Let's take this time now, and since you did talk briefly about self-defense, you want to share kind of what you're doing with that?
Yeah, sure. So, one of the things I've been doing is I started training with a group called the ShivWorks Collective.
Is it SHIV?
SHIVWORKS, ShivWorks. Okay. Yeah, and Craig Douglas is the guy that kind of, I guess, masterminds that. And he teaches a class called Extreme Close Quarter Concepts.
Okay.
And it's a self-defense based class. And I had a few people that I really trusted that were telling me, you've got to take this class. You've got to take this class. And it kind of fits in with what I do professionally, which I know we haven't really talked about that, but we'll probably circle around to it at some point. But,
yes.
I kind of fits with what I do professionally. So I said, I'm going to go try this class. And it was absolutely phenomenal. So it's sort of a peek into the world of self-defense, and what Craig does so well is he applies sort of mixed martial art type principles to the self-defense world. So the curriculum involves close quarter shooting,
Tommy was telling me about that too.
Tommy's done it also. So it involves close quarter shooting. It involves some Greco-Roman wrestling, some Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And you kind of look at, and it involves also a component on, Craig calls it managing unknown contacts, which is sort of you're recognizing threats and trying to de-escalate threats and or either deselect yourself from violence or de-escalate that violence before it happens. So it's a good functional overview of those skills. And so I started training with Craig a little bit, trained with him a few times, and there's another guy in that Chivalrous Collective, Paul Sharp, who owns a Straight Blast Gym in Elgin, Illinois. And Paul and I started training together, and we actually trained together quite a bit. And I have a little bit of a unique skill set in the striking, and a lot of these guys, it's not that they don't know striking, but are more grappling based a little bit. And Paul and I were training together a lot, and Paul really kind of started pushing me. I always kind of felt like there's a little bit of a gap there with the striking, and I'm kind of like, how can I plug sort of my life's work into this formula?
Mesh it together,
right? And Paul really has kind of been pushing me to do that, and to get out there and sort of hang a shingle out there and start getting involved in the self-defense community. Which again, through work, I've kind of got one foot in it anyway, and
you've got the experience too.
And so what I did was, kind of we sat down, we started working on a curriculum for striking, and developed a curriculum, because one of the challenging areas when you talk about striking in self-defense is striking is an inherently offensive skill set,
right? Yeah,
it's not something that's necessarily built to defend yourself. It's built to be offensive. And so we kind of had to work some of that out, and get people to understand. So what I try to get people to understand in this is the basics of striking, how to generate power, footwork, angles.
So back to the basics.
Fending, how to strike your way into a clinch if you need to, or strike your way out of a clinch to keep somebody from getting a hold of you. Because in a self-defense situation, one of the realities is you might be defending yourself against more than one person.
Yeah, and you don't want jiu-jitsu at that time. Nothing wrong with jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, but it's not the best solution to that problem. And you want to be able to stay on your feet and mobile. And obviously, when I was involved in MMA, every person I ever fought or trained with, for that matter, spent a lot of time trying to take me down.
Yes.
So I got pretty good at defending that. But
switch kick for a wrestler's face.
Yeah, right. And so I kind of started working that stuff out and trying to plug it in that self-defense situation, which I guess in something I could do, but I wanted to say, how can I get somebody relatively competent at this relatively quickly? And so that's how the curriculum is built, and we go over again, striking into a clinch, striking out of a clinch, striking against a barrier, if your back is against something, or or you're in some sort of three-dimensional environment, not just in an open field.
If you're getting cornered or something, right? that's key, getting out of there.
Yeah, dealing with multiple opponents. And the other thing too that we talk about is how to recognize pre-assault indicators,
body language,
Yeah, your verbal, your nonverbal, and your paraverbal communications. So what you say, how you say it, and what the body language is. And also, one of the big problems that I see in a lot of martial arts schools is every martial arts school I know says that they'll teach you how to defend yourself, but none of them teach you the law related to that.
Yes.
And so we spend some time on that too, like what is use of force, and when can you use force, and how do you need to be able to justify that and stuff.
Yeah, because you could seriously hurt someone with some techniques you're learning, and you might be in a lot of trouble if you do hurt that person.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's good. So you're dealing with pretty much all aspects, legal aspects of it. You're dealing with, de-escalating situations, or you're dealing with, like you said, if it gets to that situation, how to get out of it. Or,
yeah, so obviously, basically we want to try to observe the problem before it becomes a problem and get out of there.
Yeah, notice it before. Yeah.
But if you can't do that, we want to either de-escalate it or deselect yourself from that violence. Let the bad guy know that you're probably not the right person to try this with.
Probably you go down there and pick someone else.
Yeah,
right?
and a lot of that doesn't have to do with how tough you are. It's just you got to look at predator dynamics and what predators are looking for. They're not looking for a fight.
No, they're looking for the easy pushover. Give me your wallet, or they don't want anybody that's even confident. They don't want confidence scares a predator pretty much. You know. So let's circle it back and talk about what you're doing professionally, so they know how this ties in for you.
Sure. So, as you know, I worked for a sheriff's office. I worked in corrections for 17 years, so I got a little bit of experience with bad guys.
Yes, and I'm sure close corners, situations there too. That
absolutely, close confined settings, obviously by design.
Yes.
And now for the last 3.5 years, I have been assigned to training and actually kind of run the training unit. So I prepare and deliver all the use of force training, everything from the policy and law through the application, and I coordinate and keep records on and report records to the state on all the training for the sheriff's office.
Right. So you're busy. I mean, and you're surrounded by the stuff. I mean, you're consumed with it at this point, right? As self-defense. So it makes total sense to start doing your own thing with it too, right?
Right.
I mean, yeah. That, dude, I think that's a great thing for you. Now switching it up to the other martial art you've been training lately. I noticed you got your blue belt too. Congrats, dude. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah.
In jiu-jitsu, how do you like training that now? I mean, are you still training a lot of kickboxing, or are you kind of just? I
don't train a lot of kickboxing anymore. I have, like you said, I did got my blue belt in jiu-jitsu a little while ago. I've been really hitting that. I'm doing the IBJJF Chicago. In,
the Open.
What is that, about 3 weeks or something?
23rd or something, or 25th?
Like I should probably figure that out.
Yeah, we should probably get the date down. But dude, that's going to be fun, man.
Yeah, so I'm doing that. It's going to be. I'm excited to be competing again.
Is that your first competition?
First jiu-jitsu competition.
Yes, that's fun, dude. Make sure you read the rules, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
The IBJJF, they get they're funny about some things,
They're strict, but I kind of talked to a lot of other people who have done some competition, and look, being involved with fighting as long as I was, I've been in so many just horrible rinky-dink shows over the years, and I hate it. And they don't run on time, and and everyone's like, IBJJF.
They're legit, dude.
They're legit. It's professionally done. It's
I did it last fall.
Did you?
Yeah. It's it's so nice. They tell you what time you're going to be there. That's what time, and you weigh in right before your match. So don't cut weight.
No. Believe me, I'm not doing any more weight cutting in my life.
So no, they're ran great. They're going to tell you where all right, get in the bullpen, and then within I think 30 minutes of when they get you in the bullpen, you'll be weighed in, you'll be on the mat.
Yeah.
So
nice.
And no, they're stand up, man. I mean, they're thin, or they're picky about rules. So just make sure whatever what's legal and what's not, because they'll kick you out of the tournament like that. No rash guards are allowed or anything.
Right.
I mean, things like that.
Pretty sure they discourage punching in the face.
I think that's a first offense is a warning.
Okay.
Advantage.
You get one.
Right. So head kick maybe it might be an easy one. That'll be fun for you, dude. What are you, Masters 3 then? With that?
3, Masters 3.
So what's the weight class, do you know?
What is it, 220
Yeah.
something? Something like that. I don't know. I did not elect to go down to the 208s and drop
dude,
weight.
because you got to weigh in the gi too.
Yeah, right.
So that's another.
Yeah, so
5
I weigh
pounds.
about 215 right now, 212, 215, depending on whether it was Taco Tuesday. Or not.
Yeah, right.
So, I figured I'm not going to bother with a weight cut, and I'm just going to go in there and have fun.
Exactly. Go in comfortable, man. And you've competed so many times that, the adrenaline dump that a lot of people get, you probably won't have that. I mean, it's a big stage, so it's cool because they do it at the university there too, and it's I mean, it's like an impressive setup, man.
Cool.
Like you go look at it, you're like, you go to combat corner and you're like, okay, this is held in like a smaller gym, and then you go up there and it's like, wow, this is the big leagues, you know.
Well, combat corner is really well run.
It is ran awesome, but I mean, you'll see this and you'll just be like, holy crap, there's double the mats. Keenan Cornelius was there last year.
Nice,
dude. So,
nice.
I mean, Paulo Miao, if you know the Miao brothers, he was there, dude. So I mean, you're gonna see like some big names. I just want to go and watch. I'm not in the shape to compete. I don't think.
Neither am I, but we'll have fun with it.
Yeah, you don't care. You're like, whatever, dude. I'll still just choke everybody out. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, the jiu-jitsu, I love it now. And you asked about striking, and I do still train it here and there. I obviously have some years to make up for on the grappling side of things. So
right, so you were pretty heavily focused on the striking.
That's newer and fresher to me, and it's more making bigger jumps on a more regular basis, so it's exciting. But yeah, I'll still get in there and do a little bit of striking. I really try to watch the sparring these days. I will spar occasionally with people I really trust, but I worry about how many times I've been punched in the head too.
Sure. Yeah. So I mean, there's so much research out there that it's
getting to be more and more.
Yeah, and if you'd have known this years and years ago, I don't know if that would have changed your mind back then. Probably not, right?
No, because when you're in your 20s, you're bulletproof.
Yeah, that's right. You're invincible. Whatever. But knowing what they know about concussions and all that now, it's kind of scary, right?
Yeah.
I was into like 4-wheelers and dirt bikes and stuff, so you like fall and get knocked out too. And thinking back, like, man, I wish I'd never ever got on one of those. Whatever. Damage is done now.
Yeah.
So, what is? Do you have any goals and resolutions that you set for yourself for this year in particular?
Well, I definitely wanted to get at least a grappling competition in.
So check that off the list.
I wouldn't mind getting a shooting competition in this year.
Really?
Yeah, I think that'd be kind of fun.
Like a handgun? Or
handgun. Yeah. Like a IPSC or something.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, I think that'd be kind of fun to do. Obviously getting the striking curriculum, get
that rolling,
getting that up off the ground. I'm doing my first seminar on that in Elgin, and I think it's the weekend of April 22nd or 23rd, something like that. But I know I'm doing it at the Straight Blast Gym in Elgin.
So is that open to people that aren't members there too?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. We should leave maybe in the comments on this. I'll leave some info on that.
Okay. Yeah.
So anybody interested can find that too.
Yeah.
That's cool. So I mean, I guess there's one thing I didn't touch on. I just saw in my notes here. Can you stress enough the importance of having like a supportive significant other around when you're doing things like you're doing? You're busy all the time.
Yeah.
And just for people that don't understand the difference between having someone there and not, I mean, is it huge?
Well, I am. I'm on my second marriage, and my current wife is very supportive, and and I was I'm very thankful for that because, like you said, I'm not gone as much as I used to be. Okay. But I'm definitely out of the house a lot.
Busy. Yeah, you're always
training or teaching or something. And sometimes it keeps some really long hours at work too. So it's definitely and I've got a daughter who's in sports, so we're at tournaments all the time too. So it's like sometimes there's not much time for the wife and I. she's really good about that. She's very understanding about that, and I'm very appreciative of that. I don't thank her enough, honestly.
there's your chance. Give her a shout out, right?
Yeah. But definitely an important thing. I'm pretty fortunate, and then I haven't really been in many relationships in my life, family, friend, or otherwise, where I've had people, not being supportive. So don't have a huge.
You don't have much to compare it to.
Yeah,
right?
I don't have a lot to compare it to, but I do. I do know some of the guys I've trained with, and either trained or trained with over the years, where it was a constant struggle for them to, and it's kind of like, look, if you really care about somebody and something's really important to them, it should kind of be important to you too. At least, even if you don't have any real practical interest in it, it should, at least be
to a degree. You should at least,
respect their interest.
Yeah, and then maybe find one of your own or something if they're busy with theirs, right? Yeah. Okay, good.
And I think one of the, that's, you just kind of hit on something there a little bit. I think that's really important is, for me anyway, everybody's different, but I have to have my own identity, and my wife, she has to have her own identity too, you know, and for me, a relationship couldn't work any other way.
You do. I mean, that's great. You have the two of you. You have, your relationship, and you have like your couple when you're out in public and when you're doing stuff together. But then you have, hi, I'm Bryce, and I'm my own thing too. I have this and this to offer myself, and then you come together, and of course you build each other up too. But like you said, you do have to have. It's nice to have common interests, and then it's nice to have separate interests, separate hobbies, separate things that just keep you motivated or keep you going, right?
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see. What else did we want to do here? Oh, real quick. The technique of the week. Did you pick something out for that?
Yeah. We'll go through some.
Okay,
we'll talk about some of the striking stuff that I'm going to use, that I'm using in this curriculum.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so that'll be on video, guys, on YouTube, so you can check that out. And then I guess, what do you see yourself for your end game here? Not obviously not 2018, but I mean at the end of this all, are you going to be grappling still, or are you going to be training? Martial arts?
I don't know, Joe. I don't know what I'll be able to do with myself if I ever reach a point in my life when I can't do something physically active. Well, maybe I can't go enter IBJJFs or, but at some point in time that'll probably happen. But that you talk about. We talk about being thankful for things, and that's something I'm extremely thankful for. Is the ability to get out there and move and do things and, enjoy life. And, because there's people that don't have that opportunity. And I'm not saying if you're not athletic that you can't enjoy life. That's not what I'm implying. But, people that, just they don't have those opportunities that we have.
And, they didn't have health or serious nagging injuries or something like that where they can't even get out and do some of the stuff that we're doing on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So, no, good point.
Try not to take that for granted.
Yeah. So I mean, at the end of it, when you retire, will you still be maybe coaching or teaching or no?
Oh, I imagine so. In some capacity.
Yeah.
In some capacity, I imagine so.
Yeah, that'd be the end game. I think for me, man, if it was, if I stayed training, which I plan on staying training grappling, I'd just like to retire and maybe do some privates here and there for extra cash and just live a simple life,
Right. Yeah.
And then just keep training.
Absolutely.
Keep learning and help as many people as you can through it.
And I think part of that too is I'm learning more and more as I'm getting a little older. About the way we train and the way that you should train. And I did so many dumb things when I was younger with these just, ridiculously intense sort of gut check workouts, and what did that accomplish? Nothing other than maybe shaving some years off your life,
right.
And
a little overkill.
Right? Yeah, for sure, and I see it all the time with young fighters, and I'm like, you're watching these guys train, especially in their strength and conditioning, and you're not going to have anything left for the gym.
Yes, you need to work on the skill part first, and everything else is extra.
Absolutely, I think we got so many things backwards with that. I really do. There's so many people that are doing this.
Hammer down the weights as hard as you can.
Yeah, or the weights or the intervals. It's the high intensity interval training or the I'm not trying to pick on CrossFit, but like the CrossFit style training, where these guys are.
I'm okay with that.
Where these guys are, they're doing this, they're training the glycolytic pathway, and they're trashing their bodies, and and I guess it's fine if that's all you do is workout. If workout is all you do,
if that's your sport,
if that is your sport, But I question how effective it even is if that's your sport.
Yeah,
I mean,
if your sport is to be the best at working out, I guess, right?
Good marathon runners aren't destroying themselves in training runs.
No,
they're just not. So it's realistically, you look at what you need to do to get prepared for an event like a fight is, you have to be in shape. There's no doubt about that. You absolutely have to be in shape, but the fight training should come first.
Yes.
And then, the other stuff gets plugged in around there. And as long as you've got, some basic aerobic fitness and, you're not a weakling.
Yeah. I mean, for your tournament coming up, if you're short on any time, it should just be training jiu-jitsu the whole time, right? And then
absolutely,
maybe if you have an extra second, lift some weights if you feel like it, or do a little cardio if you feel like it. But jits,
Yeah. So I don't get with my schedule nowadays. I don't get to train as much as I'd like to. But what I'm learning too is first comes the martial arts training. The skill based stuff.
Yeah.
Then comes the endurance based stuff, and then comes the strength. I should say, first comes the for me, actually, I'm at the point where almost the mobility work comes first.
Yes, which is huge, dude.
Yeah, and then the skill work, and then the endurance work, and finally the strength work. That order might be inversed might be switched around for some people, but for me, that's where it is. You train jiu-jitsu. I mean, it's pretty rare that you lose because somebody overpowers you.
No. I mean, unless they're like 100 pounds heavier.
Yeah.
But at our weight, that's pretty rare.
Yeah. It really at any way. I mean, if you're gonna get beat, it's true that usually a good big man will beat a good little man.
Sure.
But don't forget that good is a descriptor there too, not just big and little.
Right. Yeah, because there's plenty of big dudes that you can just use their momentum and sweep them anytime you want.
Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely, dude. Yeah, I agree with that whole order, especially mobility. Lately, I've been trying to focus on that.
Yeah.
As part of like when I lift or something, I'll take 15 minutes now. It used to be like 30 seconds. Like, all right, I'm going to walk on the treadmill for a minute. I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
Now it's like, all right, I'm going to get some shoulder mobility going. I'm going to make sure my core is working good and hips.
Right. Yeah.
And that's actually where all your power comes from is your hips and, and through your core.
Depending on what you do, but in modern life, we sit so much too, and it's just, the hips and the glutes and everything is just not firing like they should on most of us, you know. And I had to have knee surgery a few years ago, and my physical therapist afterwards like, we're really going to hammer your hips. We're going to really work on making your hips strong because that's going to take a lot of the load off of your knee, And when we're going through physical therapies, like it's strange, he said, but because they do things to really isolate the hip muscles, so it's not things like throwing a kick or whatever, where there's a lot of things in play, and I'm thinking, as many kicks as I've thrown and all that stuff,
hips are good,
hips are strong, and they really weren't, they were, the muscles weren't firing right and all this stuff because you find a way to short circuit the process. Your body's intelligent. It finds a way to short circuit the process. So I can still throw a hard kick, but I really wasn't using my body as efficiently as I should have, and it was.
Then you relearn these pathways, right?
Yeah,
when you're going through therapy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's funny. I had a guy talking about RPR. You have to Google that sometime. And everybody listening, actually,
is it rate of perceived exertion?
That's
or?
RPE.
Okay.
RPR is like a reset of it's something you do in your nerves. And he was getting so deep into it. That's the one I was telling you where I was just starting to back off. Like, okay, you're getting pretty deep, but this is some like amazing stuff. You literally like you can rub on a certain nerve, depending on where it is in your body, and it's almost like a quick reset. And then theoretically, when you go to do like a certain lift or a certain move, you will have like the proper firing order again for that.
Okay.
So like on a glute bridge or something, some people, their hamstrings do all the work, or their lower back's doing a lot of the work,
right?
And then their glutes are firing, third or something on that list.
Sure.
Well, you do like this reset, and then you'll feel it in your glutes right away. Just your glutes will do the work, and then your hamstrings, then your lower back. And it's some like next level. I call it like voodoo stuff because I'm.
Have you tried it all, or you just heard about it?
Yeah, I've tried it actually, and Jackie. Because she's big into working the glutes. I'm just like, oh, whatever. I'm a guy. I don't care about working the glutes that much. But she's actually had him do it. There's like a nerve at the base of your skull and then something you do with your jaw here. And then she said literally when she went and worked out right after, she felt like the glute workout like she'd never felt it before.
Really?
Like, yeah.
Wow.
It was crazy, dude.
Think any of that's placebo? Or
that's what I'm wondering. I'm like, I don't know. But from the stuff I've like just heard about from him and a couple other people, I'm starting to think like this is some new wave of crazy,
there's stuff out there that obviously they're always learning more and more about the body. I several years ago I partially tore my Achilles tendon. I didn't tear it all the way through, but I partially tore my Achilles tendon, and I didn't realize that. I thought I just kind of twisted my ankle, and living around for.
Don't be a sissy. It's just a twisted ankle.
After about 5 or 6 months of limping around, I'm like, I should probably go get this thing looked at, And so they MRI me, and they said, well, you tore your Achilles tendon, and it's healed over with scar tissue now, but like I said, I didn't tear it all the way through. But one of the doctor that was working on me suggested active release.
Okay, yeah.
And I went up to a chiropractor up in Lake Geneva, Lake Delavan area.
I'm semi-familiar. Yeah. He's done some of that active release stuff, too.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I was like, wow, that was, I couldn't believe how much better I was feeling,
Did you get like an improved range of motion from
Absolutely,
that, too? Yeah, like that's what it was. Like I had something in my shoulder blade, so just the mobility of my shoulder, and there was some kind of release they did on that, and it was just like, wow, holy cow. Yeah. Good luck getting me in a Kimura now.
Yeah, right.
No, I wasn't like double jointed after, but it was definitely different. You know? And that RPR, I looked it up real quick here. It's actually reflexive performance reset. So definitely look into that. It's kind of like that, It's you get that release like that, and it's just like the weirdest thing. Like how did that just happen? Right?
Yeah, right. I've been hobbling around for 6 months. How did this guy get me back to normal?
Yeah, in like one session,
1 or 2 sessions.
Yeah. I mean, there's some weird stuff that they can do now, and thank goodness for it. It's incredible. We're getting a little off topic, but man, that's some fun stuff I love reading about, dude. I'll take like when I put the baby to bed tonight, I'll probably take like an hour and read about it now that I remembered it. Like I want to research on that. Is there anyone else you wanted to give a shout out to, or anything you wanted to cover that you think we missed?
No, not particularly. Like I said, I've been fortunate to have a lot of great people I've known through martial arts that have helped me so much. Both teachers and students. Yeah. And,
I mean, you've had some awesome partners. I remember people that were coming in and out of core there, and like you said, you worked with Duke Rufus, who's still a legend.
You probably remember. I think you were around back then. You probably remember back in the day when Anthony Pettis was coming down and training with us.
Oh, yeah, right. And, was that when core was still where it is now, or was that when it was on Alpine?
I think it was when it was on Alpine. Yeah,
right, it was Rockford Kickboxing.
Yeah, it was Rockford Kickboxing and Jiu-Jitsu back then. Yeah, and I think it's when it was on Alpine, if I remember right. We moved a couple times, but because back then. Duke didn't really have a lot of wrestlers, and I had all these wrestlers. I just kept attracting wrestlers for whatever reason.
That's a thing in the Midwest. In Midwest, to wrestling is like Thailand to kickboxing,
well,
right?
yeah, Milwaukee's still in the Midwest. So
Yeah,
I don't know and he's got plenty of wrestlers now, but it's just at that point in time, he was new getting into the MMA game. I was new getting into the MMA game, but I would just attract and I think what happened was realistically, I had one or two guys that kind of came to me to train, and then they just kind of spread the word right? Through that local community.
Did Militech have a lot of wrestlers? I imagine, right? That would be the spot. Matt Hughes, of course, and
Now you got to remember, I trained at Pat Militech's gym back in like 1996, so it wasn't even Militech Fighting Systems didn't even exist yet. Like, he didn't have his own gym. He was teaching out of the basement of Nick Tarpin's martial arts center.
Jeez.
And actually now Travis Tarpin, Nick's son Travis, who's a friend of mine, now owns that school, or schools. He's got a couple of them, one in Moline and one in Davenport, and I think one in Bettendorf too. And he's a black belt under Carlson Gracie Jr.
Wow.
So,
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
It all kind of just like comes back around somehow.
Yeah. And then, Duke has Daniel Vondelay, who's a third degree under Carlson Gracie Jr., teaching at his gym,
And just thinking back in like the 90s, you couldn't even find a blue belt, right?
Oh, yeah. If you're finding a blue belt, it was like you're finding a great white,
Yeah, right.
And, so
now there's black belts, with just within an hour drive every direction almost. Yeah.
We were talking about that the other day. It's like kind of crazy. Like, we got. I started training. Well, I didn't start. I started training in the the combative or the competitive martial arts with Pat Militech, and who was training out of Tarpin's, and Pat goes his way and does his own thing, and then I end up with Duke, and now years later, Duke's got a Carlson black belt teaching jiu-jitsu for him, and now Travis is a Carlson black belt also. So it's
Are they all pretty tight with each other too? Do you know? Or
a lot of them are. Yeah.
I always wondered if because it seems like in Rockford for the most part, I mean, everybody at least keeps tabs on each other and they're semi tight. They don't.
Yeah.
There's no like huge animosity.
There's not a huge animosity, but there's definitely seems like a little bit of a separation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if the bigger fight schools were like that too. If you go up to Duke Rufus.
I mean, not as much, not in my experience anyway. But there's more talent to draw from, so they're they're probably not fighting.
Not fighting over that one guy. It's like there's 50 more walking in the door right now.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, and success breeds success, right? So you get a good guy in there, a couple good guys in there, as people start having success, then everyone starts showing up, and until you have some guys start losing, then
then people
start leaves.
People start dragging your name through the dirt or something if you lose a couple times. It's like it's part of the game, man.
Absolutely, and that's what's funny to me. Is you see these guys,
We see the 10th Planet versus Danaher thing right now, with the jiu-jitsu.
No, I haven't seen it.
Okay.
No.
All the Danaher guys are winning all these no-gi things now, and they're crazy. And everyone's talking about, 10th Planet's going downhill, blah, blah, blah. It's like, all it is, this guy figured the system out, and it's just going to take a matter of time before the other guys figure out that system, and,
So, do you remember, I don't know if you ever watched much K1, but do you remember when Bob Sapp came into K1?
I remember Bob Sapp, yeah. Who did he fight, man? I remember, didn't Mirko beat him bad too once?
Yeah, Mirko, I think he
broke his
eye orbital or something. Yeah.
I remember that.
But when Bob Sapp first came into K1, he was beating all these top-level fighters, and the thing was, he's so big and so strong and fast and athletic, and there's just not that much room in a ring, especially when the guy's,
takes up
that
half the
big.
ring.
Yeah, you don't fight with him, you fight among them, right?
You're right. Yeah, he's sucking all the oxygen out of the ring.
And but he had beaten like Ernesto Hoost, and he was beating some of these like top guys, and he's just so big and so strong, and they'd never really dealt with. He wasn't really skilled, but
not a lot of technique. No,
but they just really hadn't dealt with that before, and then once they figured him out, it's like he couldn't buy a win.
Yeah,
and and it's just I think that happens all the time. Somebody innovates something, and they come up with something that's particularly effective, and then that's the new thing until somebody figures out how to get around that.
Until you have like a coach like Sockwell, like you said earlier, that's going to study hours and hours of tapes and where's he catching me? Where's he doing this? And then they're gonna find a way to shut it down. I mean,
eventually somebody's gonna find a way to shut it down. And then that's the hot ticket for a period of time.
It's so funny because you got to stay like on the cutting edge too. It's like for a coach to be as effective as Duke Rufus, for instance, he's got to be studying tape. I mean, all the time, as guys, all the time. You always have to be on it to stay even close to relevant, right? I mean,
yeah, for sure. I mean, but the basics never change,
right?
Right. The basics never change, and and sometimes athletes just somebody can expose a weakness in an athlete too, and once one person's exposed that weekness, then these guys, they are sharks. Everyone will
everyone will call them out
relentlessly then, and I think that every fighter that's on top, eventually he gets figured out.
You see that in the UFC. Yeah. I mean, I can't think of who's probably the most recent, but I remember Anderson Silva when he was on top of the world, and then was it Weidman finally?
Conor McGregor when Nate Diaz beat him. It was like this guy was he was unstoppable, and Conor does some things very, very well, and he's extremely confident in himself, but then he got in there with somebody that could take his punch and give it right back, and
he doesn't mind the crap talking, it's
you're not going to get under that guy's skin, and so that's that's always the guy that's I think is scary right now is Nurmagomedov.
Oh man, Khabib, Woo!
I'll tell you, there's I think there is a weakness in his style that Conor could exploit. And I see that fight going one of two ways. I see Conor clipping him and knocking him out early, or Nurmagomedov dragging Conor to the ground and just making it the longest night of his life.
25 minutes of ground and pound. Yeah, because he's so active on top too.
He's unbelievable. But when this guy comes in, he punches hard, but he rushes in and he forces people. He pushes them backwards. That's one of the things about striking, and one of the reasons that striking is tough in a self-defense situation too. Is if you're a lot of times in a self-defense situation, you're not the one initiating the action.
You're not the aggressor.
Otherwise, it wouldn't be self-defense, right?
Yeah.
And it's even very good fighters, professional fighters, have a hard time fighting going backwards. And Nurmagomedov's so good at pushing people backwards. But Conor is actually pretty good at fighting going backwards too.
Wasn't that how he caught Jose Aldo?
It is. Yeah. It is. Yeah. And Conor's got very good distancing. And he's good at fighting going backwards. And Nurmagomedov does come in with his chin kind of up in the air. So I think it's a small window before he gets hold of you, but there's a window there.
Yes. But man, don't let him get hold of you. Even if he just gets like one finger on your leg, you can't stop him, dude. Once he touches you, you're going down.
Yeah, they say he's just ridiculously strong.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine how annoying would that be too. You can't any way you move, you're catching an elbow, you're catching a punch. Any way you go, and a guy like that's just surfing on you, right?
Yeah,
just raining on you the whole time, man. Yeah, watching him fight, He's probably got like the most active ground and pound I think I've seen
phenomenal.
ever.
It's phenomenal
Because it's actually fun to watch. Some people, their ground and pound, people start booing.
Boring.
Yeah, you're like, when he does it, it's just like exciting. Like,
yeah, it is.
Jumping over here, bang, bang. Jumping over here, elbow.
He's going to rewrite the book on ground and pound.
Yeah, he's making it exciting again.
But people are, I think they already are starting to study his style and what he does, and he's one of those sort of quantum leaps forward. His ground and pound, I think he's really going to rewrite the book on that. Just like Randy Couture did years ago.
Yeah.
But
grind people out too, and man.
Yeah, but he was not near as punishing as Nurmagomedov.
No. But he had like the stamina of, I don't know, he would never tired, Yeah. Or at least it seemed like it. I'm sure inside he was probably dying a little, but yeah, man, that's one grind about, the grappling or the wrestling, there's that hard nose just grind, you know what I mean? For the people, like, I feel like a lot of the Midwest people that grew up wrestling and stuff, they get that work ethic from that, I feel like from years of wrestling.
Yeah.
And so when they come into the MMA world, seems to carry over to that too. But they're not as patient, they're just go in and grind them, they don't, they're not picking their shots. So there's a small opening right there.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons that the striking in MMA hasn't gotten, in my opinion, hasn't reached the level that the grappling in MMA has. Is it's very difficult to strike going backwards.
Oh yeah.
There's a handful of top fighters in the world that can do it.
Anderson Silva, right? I mean, I don't know if he's still.
Anderson Silva could. Connor's can. You got. You look at boxing. You got, like, obviously Mayweather can. Muhammad Ali could fight going backwards very well.
Sure.
But there's not a lot of people that can do it. You start pushing people backwards, and that's usually gonna, there's not a lot of guys that can hit when they're going off their heels.
It's hard, man. So what do you think about Mayweather's not going into MMA? Is he? This is all crap, right?
I don't think so.
I hope not.
Yeah, I give Conor McGregor a lot of credit for taking that fight. Mm-hmm. For having. I mean, you got paid a lot of money for it, obviously, but
you'd have taken that fight,
right? But to put your reputation, let's take the money off the table for a minute. To put your reputation on the line in a sport that's not your own. Yeah,
two belt holder over here.
So I give him a lot of credit for that. He saw an opportunity. He really kind of made the opportunity, and he seized it.
He talked his way into a lot of money.
Absolutely did.
That goes back to what you were saying earlier too, getting butts and seats. Yeah, that's how he got paid.
Yeah, but the thing is, the thing about that fight. Did you watch it?
Yeah, I did. Yep.
Wasn't as close as people think it was.
No, there was one round that was close, I think, and that was it.
Conor, I don't mean this as a diss on Conor. Floyd kept him in that fight.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
If you watch the way Floyd Mayweather fought that fight,
you could watch him kick it up a gear when he wanted to end it. Right?
Yeah. Well, and not only that, but Floyd fought that fight as a walk-up fighter. Mm-hmm. He put his hands up and he walked forward. Yeah.
And that's not how
that is not how he fights.
Yeah.
He fights a very defensive fight, doesn't get hit much.
He wanted to make it exciting, right?
He knew in the first round that Conor was not going to hurt him. He figured, this guy's a boxing computer, and he figured out in the first round that Conor wasn't going to hurt him. So he said, I'm going to make this exciting. And he walked him down.
He's freaking ridiculous, isn't he? Yeah. That dude will take anyone's game. Like you said, within a couple rounds, he will download their foot movement, their everything done. Okay, I got this. I got this guy completely figured out. His fight IQ is crazy.
It is. It is. And when people complain about his fights being boring, I get that complaint. I understand why they say that. You took like the Mayweather and Pacquiao fight, for example.
Yeah.
If you understand Mayweather and you understand the way he fights, you probably knew that's the fight you were going to get.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't disappointed in that fight at all.
Because I'm not surprised.
I've seen really high level boxing, but you knew it wasn't going to be it was just a slugfest. Watch Canelo and Golovkin for that, and that's what you got out of that fight.
Yeah.
Now they're doing it again, so I'm excited for
awesome.
that one. Yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of boring fighters, are you familiar with Ben Askren? You know who he is, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is that a bummer he never made it to the UFC? People talk about that all the time.
I would have. I don't think he's boring.
I know, but
and the reason I say that is because he is so good at what he does that he's dominant. Just able to impose it on everyone.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he would have been able to do that in the UFC.
Yeah,
I think there's better wrestlers, and I don't mean there's better wrestlers than him in the UFC, but I mean there's better wrestlers than he was fighting in some of the other promotions that he was in. You don't necessarily have to be the best wrestler to win the wrestling exchanges in MMA. It goes back to what we were talking about, that transitional fighting.
Yep.
But I would have loved to have seen it.
Such a bummer, right?
And see how he could have done against those guys. That would have been especially when George St. Pierre was the champion.
Could you imagine? Yeah,
that would have been a really interesting fight to see, because you talk about fight IQ. George St. Pierre has it in spades. He is so smart.
Yeah. Is he ever going to fight again, you think? Or
I don't know.
It's hard to tell, right?
Yeah. I mean, why?
Right. Unless it's the perfect one.
He retired as the 170-pound champion, took 4 years off, came back, won the 85-pound title, vacated that. What's he got to prove at this point?
I mean, unless it's a super fight where he's making a ton of. There's no reason. You're right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, man, we got a lot covered here. We're going off on an MMA tangent now, which is fun, but. Maybe we can get off here and get upstairs and start on the technique of the week, if that's cool with you.
Yeah.
Well, first off, thanks for coming out, dude. And if anyone here listening wants to follow you, or are you on Instagram? Or
no, I'm on Facebook. I'm not a huge social media guy.
Okay,
but look me up on Facebook. Yeah.
Okay. Or if they go to the gym, maybe see you there, right? Okay.
Sure.
Cool. Hopefully they don't see you at work. Right. For their sake.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. We're out of here. Bye.